So it's Tuesday morning, and this week's all about getting cars out that have sold last week. So the week after the auction, we prioritise getting cars out. So that's our main thing. We have a week where we take very little in. We need to make some spaces so they all go out, and obviously we have to get them in some form of order. So starting on Monday, it'll be all hands on for cars coming in for November for our next sale. So we're getting there. There was an awful lot went out yesterday. Excuse me, there's an awful lot going out today and tomorrow. They're all planned. So we always ask that people give us 24, 48 hours notice for a collection. And we try our very best to accommodate those requests as much as we can. Obviously, if something's right at the very back, and they wanted it out Monday morning, it's going to have to be a no. It's going to have to be a Wednesday onwards by the time we get some space and get some throughput. So yeah, this week's all about getting cars out really, and one that will be going out will be the lovely Peugeot. So I feel the industry as a whole has bounced back slightly. There was a little bit of doom and gloom back end of last year. We had a price drop. I don't know what triggered it. I don't know. Something economic, obviously. I don't know what triggered, but we were still back in COVID prices last summer, probably because this industry is driven more by your heart than your head, maybe, possibly at times. It's a little bit romantic, isn't it? But then we found that change in October, November, just before Christmas, really, last year. But this year, we've seen a gradual return. So it did sort of slip off quite considerably. But yeah, I felt it's coming back again. And certain things like this Peugeot, for argument's sake, really nice cars, always do really well, really whenever and whatever the market's doing. You know, I say to people all the time, I have about 200 emails a day come over my desk with people wanting to put cars through, and obviously we've got to narrow that down to probably 25. You know, there's 50 instance, no thanks ever so much, you know, a rusty old Peugeot 306 in a garden somewhere that's been there 10 years, no. But then I always say there's the odd unicorn that does really well. So when a nice car comes along, it will always do really well. And obviously the Peugeot did it, of course, at the weekend. And I think we would all agree you're going to have to go a long, long way to find a nicer little Peugeot 205. I've got a very nice one coming in next sale. This is what happens. You sell something, it does very well because it's a very nice car. And then you've got those that have just been thinking, I might change, I might have a little bit of a change, I might sell, I might not. And then they see a car do very well, and then you get the phone call or you get the email. Then what you've got to do is manage expectations, because that might not be quite as nice a car as this. It might not quite be a £30,000 Peugeot. It might be, but it might not. There's a big difference between an okay Peugeot 205, using these as a bit of a yardstick, and a really nice one. An okay one, 10, 12, 13,000. A really, really nice one, 25, 27, 30,000, that's the difference. So that takes up most of my time, really, managing people's expectations. And sometimes I'm wrong, and sometimes I'm right. It's a funny old world that we're in. We're all different, otherwise we'd all be running around in Nissan Micras, wouldn't we, you know? But what is the same throughout is the really nice cars, like I say, always do really well. So, and there's some more in here that we can have a look around later today. There's one or two that have done really well. The Peugeot is one that stood out. There's a little XR2 there behind Tom, again, that done really well. A really nice car. If you want to wander over there, we can see that as well. That done very well. Surprisingly, the Minis are, they're stranger Minis. Minis are a little bit like, E-types are like stocks and shares. 1 minute, they're 100,000, then they're 40, then they're 60, then they're 30, then they're 80. A Jaguar E-Type is like all over the place. with values. Minis are all over the place with popularity. One minute, they're flying out the door, minis. Everyone wants a mini. The next minute, you know, literally 2 months later, you can have 15 minis and only sell 3. It's really strange. And then 2 sales later, you'll have 15 minis and sell 13. It's really weird. It's not necessarily the quality of the Mini or the model of the Mini, it's just Minis in general seem to go in and out of vogue. It's really, really weird, because that's a lovely car, and that should have sold that car. Having said that, we have our timed auction. So what happens is I try and give people a little bit of an oversight. Sorry if I'm sort of telling you things you already know, but I had a little bit of time with a previous video that I just explained how the provisionals worked. Now with a sale, you can't expect to sell 100% every time. You could, if everything came in with no reserves and you gave stuff away, but you've got to strike that balance, haven't you, between the buyer and the seller. And if you can stand back and you can say to the seller, "You happy with that?" Yeah, I'm happy. And you say to the buyer, "Are you happy with that?" "Yeah, I'm happy." Winner, winner. So this sale is going to end up being early 80s, I think, percent-wise. It was late 70s on Saturday when I was in the office on Saturday. Then we've got the timed auction, which is what I'm coming to now. So that 20% that's left over, we put into a timed auction, which starts on the Saturday, as long as we can get all the paperwork done, and runs through to the Wednesday or Thursday. That just gives the buyers out there another opportunity to have a look at that 20% that was left over. And we normally do quite well with that, because they either miss it, they're down the pub, someone said, "Did you see that? Didn't sell." Boom. Or they think, "I should have maybe got an extra couple of bids on that car. That, I stopped at 5.5. To be honest, it probably is worth 6. So they get on the phone or they go on the internet and they buy themselves what they missed the previous sale. So there you go. The little Fiesta, again, in the same category as the Peugeot, a really nice car, and found a home, no problem at all at the weekend. But it's a strange old world, it really is, because the Anglia, which is quite an unusual, the Anglia over there, which has got a modern spec to it, she's got a modern Z-Tech engine and so forth in that, but we get very few Anglias. There's not many on the market, so we might only get 4, 5 Anglias a year, where we'll get 14 XR2s, but the Anglia, although very sensibly priced, didn't find a home. Strange, isn't it? And then the XR2 did. It's really, really strange. We've been doing this for a lot of years now, and you walk around still before a sale, and you think, that'll definitely sell, that'll definitely sell, that'll definitely sell. And do you know what? Post-sale, you have a walk round and you're like, really, that didn't sell? That should have really sold, that car. That should have sold. And then you walk up to one that, yeah, you might not be a massive fan of. Maybe, I don't mind Beetles, but a left-hand drive Beetle is a little bit tricky to sell in the UK. They are. Even though it's a really nice car, this one down here. It's a right nice car. But the UK enthusiast is not enthusiastic about left-hand drive, which is why I think some of the American cars there, we've just walked past the Corvette, represent good value for money. Different buyer, I know, but a left-hand drive anything is always a struggle, even though it's really nice. But that should have found a home, because it's a really, really smart little car, is that. And then you've got the other end of the scale, just saw it out of the corner of my eye over there, you've got the little Austins there. So whether it be a little Ruby or a little Box 7 or whatever it might be, these little Austins, if you're guaranteed to sell anything in this building, you're guaranteed to sell that little Austin. They are so popular, these little things, they really are, and especially when they're presented like that. I mean, that is absolute darling. We had it by the entrance here. Everyone who came in just sort of stopped and went, oh, and a collector has got to have this in his collection. It's just a tick box thing. You've just got to have it in your collection. You can hardly use them. They've got no brakes, hardly any clutch. They don't go very well. Steering, I think, is connected with bubble gum, but you just forgive all those flaws because they're such a little sweetie and people love them. They really do. So that went on at the weekend and done really well, which it was going to. You could guarantee that car would find a new home because you couldn't walk up to it and not be impressed. Yeah, lovely car. So that sort of sums up, I think, this shed. Yeah, obviously there's 2 more sheds to go at. We'll have a look at those a little bit later on. But yeah, good sale altogether. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. We had 3 quite buoyant days. I feel that the online streaming thing went really well. You guys came down, I think, on 2 days this year. So I think that done really well. Lots of positive feedback on that. So that's something we've got to look into moving forward. I'd love to try and do something. We had like a roaming camera. I wanted to do that at our live show. And that was on the tick box, but the cameraman were finding it so difficult to get round the crowd at our live event to see who was bidding, because obviously there could be someone bidding over there to start with, then someone bidding over there, then someone bidding here. They couldn't do it all, so in the end they gave up. I'd love to try and do something like that with our sales down here, where if we are auctioning that car, you can come over with your camera and do a bit of a live feedback on it. But I know it's difficult, and especially when we've got sheds that are 100 yards up the road and across the yard, and it's a little bit like, where do you stop really, or difficult, I know. But anyhow, I think to start with, if we can develop that streaming, I think that works well. We can have 2 or 3 different cameras set up where we can flick between them, and you can show what's being auctioned at any one time. I think that went really well. So anyway, we're forever listening. We are forever trying to improve things and keep going forward with it all. So yeah, we just keep tapping away and doing as best we can. So I'll speak to you in a bit. Right then guys, shall we go and have a look down what we call Unit 3. So we've got Unit 2 over there. We'll have a quick look in there while we're here. Let's have a quick look in here while we're here. I'll tell you what we will do. I'll change tact again, because we don't study bikes as much as we should on social media, even though they are quite a big part of what we do. So this is obviously a link on to what we call Unit 1, which is behind me, which is predominantly bikes and small items. Bikes, like cars, have taken quite a tumble this last year or so when it comes to values. They are such good value, they really are. On the plus side for the industry, I feel again this last sale has just seen a little bit of a bounce back, a little bit more interest in general. Just talking to Lee there. Lee does a lot of our bike transport, and he was just saying that his phone's been busy. He's got lots of bikes going out, lots of bikes coming in. So it did feel like that there was some more. We were having probably 50% success rate with bikes because it was quite difficult. I would feel that that's increased back up to maybe 70-75% with bikes now, which is good, which is encouraging. So yeah, it's coming back. Bikes are coming back a bit. The next obstacle we're going to get is, although it's a lovely sunny day today, is seasonal, isn't it? So they're just coming back a little bit, which is strange because we're towards the end of the summer season now, aren't we? We're in October, so we are towards the end. And then we're going to go into winter, which always sees a little bit of a slowdown with bikes. But this year might be different because bikes have been so cheap. They really have been so cheap this last year that you can afford to buy them now at any point. I don't think you've got to wait for that little seasonal drop. They've just been such good value for money all year. So you never know. We might see the bike interest continuing on with our next sale, our last sale of the year, which is in about 5 or 6 weeks' time. And then, to be honest with you, you get through Christmas, you're soon into March and April, aren't you? You're soon down that road, and you're then thinking about getting your bike out. So we'll see. But encouraging sale this time with bikes, and some really interesting memorabilia items as well. I don't think there's a lot left in Unit 2. I know the Land Rovers did really well. I don't know which one's which. I think that one there is an absolute stunner. That's the one I think with all the bells and whistles on. That's really well. The other odds and ends that normally do okay, again like the Minis, yeah, okay. They weren't rushing out the door. The XK8 there, a nice one. I get offered probably 20 of those XK8s a week, and it's only the nice ones that sell, and that one did sell and went on quite well. So most of these are waiting to go out. These will go out over the course of the next week or 10 days. So we'll have a wander up to number 3. And again, I always try and have some oddball things. I like something a bit different. The Scammell found a home at the weekend, the big old recovery truck there. It's just different, isn't it? Just a little bit different. The American day van there, the GMC, again, found a home at the weekend. Again, just something a little bit different. Trailers we do really well with. There's always a queue for trailers. We've got a couple of vintage lorries going in November. They'll do okay. Again, fantastic value for money. You buy a lovely lorry now, £6,000, £7,000, £8,000. Which you look at it and think, it's that big and it's only 6,000 quid. It's just good value for money, really good. But let's have a wander up to number 3 and see what's happening up there. Are you all right, mate? Yeah, good. What we try and do for collections and deliveries as best we can, we try and keep a bit of control, but it is very difficult, as you can imagine. You know, you can't start telling people, right, you've got to be there at Tuesday at 1 o'clock, you know, and you've got to be there Tuesday at 1:30, you've got to be there Tuesday at 2 o'clock. You know, you can't start being that dictatorial, really, especially when the traffic as it is in the UK. But we do try our very best to keep it under some form of control. And we book collections and deliveries, so we'll roughly know what's coming in within reason. We'll know what's coming in today, tomorrow, next week, when we obviously start taking the cars back in preparation for November. But what is difficult is that time slot. So we'll know they're coming in on Wednesday, but we don't quite know whether they're going to come in at 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And what tends to happen, which is just life, isn't it? It's like a bus. You get a great input at 10, then it goes quiet for an hour or two, then you get another great input at 12. You know, in an ideal world, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it, if they came in at 12 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30. But you're never going to get it to that level. No way. Never. But we do try our best to try and keep a handle on it. That's mint, is that, isn't it? Great big V8 in that little thing. Just to try and obviously work with the other businesses on the industrial estate. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, when somebody wants to get something out right from around the back, or we've got more cars around the corner, more cars down there. That's when you've got to have an element of control. By the end of the week, it won't be so bad. We'll have a road in there, we'll have a better road in here, so we can be a lot more flexible. So Mick and Graham look after this shed for us, and what Mick does, he gets anything that's pending or anything that's going in the timed auction, we tend to move towards the back, and then we've got the sold. We get all the sold lined up, which makes it a lot easier when people come down, obviously, to collect stuff. So you'll find over the course of the next week or so, the majority of these cars will be off. They'll go with the contractors to new homes. There'll be a little window of a few days where you'll be able to see some concrete, but to be fair, there's not much, because as soon as they go out, stuff starts coming in. And then what we try and do to work with the contractors is, if they're coming back from Manchester or wherever, or Edinburgh, or Peterborough, or wherever, there's no point in them coming back empty. So what we try to do and work with them is obviously bring stuff in. So stuff will come in as stuff's going out. So that's why you rarely see much in the way of concrete, because they come for that one, take it away, but they bring another one in, so it goes in its place. So it is like a giant Rubik's Cube. We just had a smart meter fitted, so they just turned back on, which is why my cameras went off, I think, for a few minutes. So, so there you go. Some interesting ones in here, I suppose, when I'm here. The tractor, we always have a few tractors. The Lotus done really well. The little Lotus over there done really well. The tractor, there was loads of interest in the tractor. And they tend to leave the tractors and a lot of the Land Rovers to Paul. He knows his way around them. They always do really well. RS2000 came in with a super sensible guide and reserve, long-term ownership, 15, 16, 17 years, a real nice usable car. That done really well. Capris always do really well. They do okay. E-Type, that's the best value E-Type you can buy. Series 3, one of the last there. You've got the benefits of a Webasto as roof. There's other roofs as well, but we generally in the trade just call them Webasto because they were one of the biggest companies that were doing them, and a lot of them were Webasto roofs. That's the manufacturer. Just like you call a Baco a JCB, everyone calls them a JCB, even though it might be a Case or a New Holland. They all call them a JCB, don't they? We call these Webastos. That's the best value for money E-Type you can buy. A, it's in the right colour. B, it's manual. C, it's got a Webasto roof, which gives you almost the benefits of a Roadster. V12, absolutely unburstable. Never have any issues with the V12. So you can buy a lovely car like that. That car, I don't know what it sold for the weekend, but 40-ish thousand, 40, 45,000, maybe a little bit more, gets you a car in that condition, which is fantastic value. How much? What did it sell? There you go. Absolutely, there you go. Now, you park that outside Tesco's and ask everyone as they walk out how much you think that car is. I'll guarantee it'll be 100k plus. Everyone will say 100, 120, 150, whatever it might be. So that to me is the absolute best value for money Jaguar you can buy that. And they're a lovely car. They drive nice. A V12 like that, you can slow down in traffic in top gear to 30 mile an hour. They're so torquey and forgiving. People moan about the fact that, you know, changing gear all the time in certain things. You don't. 40 mile an hour in an E-Type, put your foot down, she'll just pull away lovely. They are really forgiving. Now, I think that is just fantastic value for money. Brilliant car. Yeah, and a lovely model as well. That done okay. The RS2000s always do okay. Cortinas, there's 3 of them there. I think we've sold 2, but there's some bids on that one sold, that one sold. There's some bids on that one I noticed on the timed auction. So that will sell between now and Thursday night when the timed auction finishes. That will go. Mark II Jags and Daimlers, they're a little bit hot and cold. One minute they're doing okay, the next minute you're struggling with them. So they're a bit hit and miss. Now these Rolls as well, Spirits and so forth, I get offered probably 10 of those a week. The really nice ones sell, the okay ones, to be honest, there's not a lot of point in having them on site. They just, even though they might only be 2,000 quid for a Rolls Royce, £2,000 for a Rolls Royce that drives and goes and you can go out in for nothing. But funny market, that, real funny market. The BMW, these early 3 Series BMs have really gone big time. That car did quite well at the weekend, 325i in bright red. It's the one you want. If you're going to get one, that's the one you want. Now they've gone from 0 to hero, those cars. I mean, you could pick those cars up, not necessarily a 325, but you could pick up a 320, 3 Series BM, £1,000 for quite a nice car. Now £6,000, £7,000. So they really have gone off value-wise. And then on reflection, they've gone off. They're price-wise. These MGBs have come down again. So for years and years and years, £3,000 or £4,000 got you a nice GT. £6,000 or £7,000 got you a nice Roadster. Then they went up to a new level. So you needed £10,000 for one of those, maybe £6,000 for one of those. They've just gone back down again. So 7,000-ish, maybe a little bit more, gets you a lovely Roadster. £3,000 or £4,000 gets you a nice GT. If anyone comes to me and says, I'm thinking about getting involved with the industry, blah, 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 don't know what, buy an MGB. You cannot fall off an MGB. They are so forgiving. You can get every part for that car delivered to your door tomorrow morning. They're easier to run than they are a Ford Escort. The club is great. They're a real proactive club. There's various regions all over the UK. They drive like a modern car. If you can't get on with one of those, then I would suggest that the classic car industry isn't really for you. They are brilliant value for money. And Lotuses, again, up and down with value-wise. Yeah, supercars for not super money. When you think that's a bedroom wall poster car, isn't it that? And every other bedroom wall poster car, a Maserati, Lamborghini, Ferrari, would be 100, 150,000 pounds north, when you can buy a lovely one of those for 25 or 30. That makes them a good buy, a real good buy. So I think that sums it up. I'm just going to see if they've got any ice cream. Didn't have any yesterday. He'd sold out. But I'm just going to see if he's got some ice cream. It's a bit cold for ice cream today. And that's about it, guys. I think that sums it up. So we had a real mixed bag of stuff in again for October. There looks to be a real mixed bag of stuff coming in for November. Some quite unusual cars. One in particular, I won't say what it is at the moment, but one in particular, a car that you only get offered probably once every 5 or 6 or 7 years. There's 2 coming in next sale. It's a bus scenario, isn't it? You don't get any, then you get 2. To the point where there was some confusion in the office when I've said, yeah, I've said okay to that car, it's fine. They said, how have you said okay to it? No one knows about it. Turns out it's 2. Yeah, 2 of a very limited run, both interesting cars. So there you go. That's about it, I think, guys. I'm going to go back and get myself handcuffed back to my desk because there'll be a load of emails waiting for me with view to some entries for November. And then we'll go from there. So I'll catch you later.